Hi, today I want to talk to you about running a deep freeze off of solar. Now I have a very small solar setup. It's only 400 watts of solar panels and I only have two Walmart dual cycle batteries, and we are planning on getting a deep freeze. And most of you are probably going, there's no way you're going to be able to run this. Your average deep freeze like this runs approximately 700 watts of power a day. Approximately. Some run up to 950, even 1,000 watts. So we're looking into the most energy efficient deep freezes we can find. We are looking at an Avante 2.5 cubic foot, and we're looking at this one right here, which is a SMOD 3.4 cubic foot. Now this one I prefer. It's cheaper than the other one. It's bigger than the other one. And this one I was actually finding the power usage for because they listed it. And it also has a light on the front when the power's on, so you know it's running. So this is probably the one we're going to get. But what I'm looking at right here, this is for the SMOD. It uses 0.68 kilowatt hours in a 24-hour period. Now they measure kilowatts by 1,000 watts, so basically I'm figuring 700 watts in a 24-hour period to be on the safe side. 700 watts is what I'm figuring right here for 24 hours. Now we only have 400 watts of solar, so that's not going to run full time, which is fine. I don't need it to run full time. When a deep freeze is frozen, they tend to stay frozen for a good while. And what I plan on doing is I purchased one of these. This is a mechanical timer. Now I can set this deep freeze on this timer to kick off and on. Now it will be running a half hour at a time, 4 times a day. Alright, so this is 2 hours out of the 24-hour period. So my solar system will handle this. And this is a grounded plug, heavy duty, and I pay like $7 for it. Now I want to talk to you about the power usage. Alright, I'm going to figure 700 watts because it was 0.68 kilowatt hours. So I'm going to figure 700 watts, give it a little bit on the high side. 700 watts divided by 24 equals, that's 29.16 watts per hour that deep freeze is going to use. Now, to be on the safe side, I'm going to run this 4 times a day, which will be, take 30, and I always add up when I'm adding power or anything else. I'm going to figure 30 watts times 4, and this will give me 120 watts that I will be using a day. Alright, because I will run this 4 times a day. This timer will be set to where it'll kick on around 9 o'clock in the morning and kick off at 9:30. It will kick on again about 1 during the hottest part of the day and kick off at 1:30. Then it will kick on around 7 to 8, probably about 7, and then it'll kick off. Because there is still light out around 7 o'clock, my solar batteries and panels will still be working at that time. And then, it'll only run for a half hour. And then it will kick on one time in the middle of the night when it's the coolest outside. But it will run one time. And that can be anywhere from 2 to 3 in the morning. And then it'll kick off after a half hour. Running this 4 times a day should keep my food frozen once that deep freeze has already been, frozen up. So, will my 400 watts of solar power a deep freeze? Yes. But to get it to run to where I don't draw my batteries completely down and try to keep it where my solar can keep up with something this big and heavy, I have to have it running not full time. But a good deep freeze can stay frozen literally for 8, 10, 12 hours, if not longer, once it's been frozen. Now, if you plan on doing something like this, remember one thing. A deep freeze takes hours to freeze up the first time you plug it in. Would I try to freeze this deep freeze on our solar panels? Absolutely not. I have two different ways I can freeze this freezer. One, I can use one of my power inverters to actually hook it up, run it off a vehicle, and that way, while my vehicle's running, the inverter will be cooling down the deep freeze. Or I can use our generator. But once this is cooled down, it'll stay cool for a good long while. And basically all I'm going to do with my solar is keep it cold, keep it frozen. It will not have to freeze it. I'll use my power inverter off the vehicle, or I will use my generator to freeze it up. And running 4 times a day, this should stay frozen without an issue. And it will only use like 120 watts of power that my solar panels produce. Perhaps I will get an extra battery. I don't know yet. I don't think I would need it. But, we'll see. But I'm pretty sure I wouldn't need it. I already have 2 batteries. And I'm pretty sure that those 2 batteries can handle this without an issue. Once again, can you run a deep freeze off of solar with a smaller solar setup? Absolutely. But you have to be smart about it. Once your freezer is frozen and your food's in there, hook it up to a timer. Only run it so many hours. Your deep freeze doesn't not have to run 24 hours a day to keep that frozen. And that's what I'm planning on, because I have a smaller solar system. I don't have thousands of dollars to spend on a large system. But a deep freeze is something we actually want to get, and we actually need to get. And I will be getting another one of these timers, and maybe a few extra solar panels and another charger controller just for my fridge. Now we'll do the fridge the exact same way as I'm going to do the freezer. Right now I could hook them both up and on the same timer, but I prefer my fridge kick on more than my deep freeze that we're getting. So I may just get another timer and set up the fridge for different times. And once again, if you want a deep freeze on solar with a smaller solar setup, can you do it? Absolutely. Don't be afraid to try different things. And if this is something you want to do, plan for it. Don't just buy a deep freeze and go, I got 400, 300, 400 watts of solar and I'm good to go, because that deep freeze is going to pull probably 700 watts, if not more. So you want to make sure your deep freeze does not run all the time, and you want to make sure it doesn't draw your batteries down or anything else down. And that's what we plan on doing with one of these timers. This is a grounded timer. Make sure if you get a timer, it is a grounded timer. If you don't see this little plug here on the back, right here, it's not grounded. You have to have one with the 3 prongs. Anyway, I'm fixing to go. I apologize. The video's probably very lousy quality. I do have a light sitting absolutely just right there, trying to make this bright enough for you to see. But can run a deep freeze? Absolutely. Do you have to have a deep freeze plugged in 24 hours a day? Absolutely not. Alright, that's it. I'm fixing to go, and once we get our timer in and we buy our deep freeze, which will probably be in another 3 weeks, we'll be getting our deep freeze. But once we get our deep freeze in and our timer in, I'll show that running off my solar. Alright, that's it. Everyone have a good day. Bye.